Assalamu alaikum. Hello there. And what about ye? And welcome back to Are You Not Qatartainment, the movie podcast in association with Cinema Scholars and Qatartainment. I'm your host, Glenn Dower, and welcome back to another episode of Are You Not Qatartainment, the interviews. This time, psychos and zombies, as I get to meet two incredibly talented filmmakers who were a joy to talk to this week. And I really wanted to get this episode out today, which is Friday the 4th of April at the time of droppage, as both movies are out today, and I sincerely want you guys to support these movies if you can find them at your local cinema or when they drop online. So these were both recorded on the same day, April Fool's Day, for the gentlemen involved. For myself, it was stupid o'clock in the morning, as I am, of course, on Arab Standard Time, but still, I had a great time speaking to, first of all, the director of the new Steve Buscemi comedy, Psychotherapy, the shallow tale of a writer who decided to write about a serial killer. That's its full title, by the way. About a struggling writer in the midst of a divorce befriends a retired serial killer, played by Buscemi, who incidentally becomes his marriage counselor by day and killing counselor for hire by night for his next book. This is a really great comedy, folks. I really laughed out loud at this. And of course, Steve Buscemi is one of my top actors. I'm sure he's one of yours. The Big Lebowski is my favorite movie of all time, and he plays Donnie in that, and he is fantastic. And as always, he's extremely watchable. You really feel for his character, even though he is a quote-unquote retired serial killer, and you hear it come through in the trailer I'm about to play for you. So I spoke to the director, Mr. Tolga Karacelik, and he was actually in his local cafe. So if you hear any clinking and clanking in the background, it's him being delivered his delicious latte. Next up, a really fantastic horror called The Children of the Apocalypse. And so you can see from the poster on the thumbnail for this podcast episode, it is hardcore zombie flick of the highest order. I had a great time with this movie. And of course, I usually get to see screeners, which are links set by film companies so people can review them like myself. And I had to watch it on my laptop. And I wish I'd seen it on the big, big screen, because I know I'll be sunk into my seat going, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. This is amazing. So please do check it out if you can at your local cinema. It is in Spanish language with subtitles, but I'm an intellectual. I don't care about subtitles. But the story is so good, so strong, with such an amazing cast. And I had a real joy talking to Isaac Ezban. When we talked about movies in general, we talked about his inspirations, and we talked about some movie references that I was extremely pleased to get. So just a little bit of housekeeping. You can follow me on Instagram at DowerFilmDoha. Please also follow Cinema Scholars at Scholar Cinema and Qatartainment at Qatartainment.official. Your support, your comments, your likes, your subscriptions are all massively helpful across Spotify, across YouTube, and across Instagram. And of course, share with anyone you know who likes movies. We have everything covered on Qatartainment with regards to gaming, cosplay, anything geeky, and I look after the movie side of things. And of course, Cinema Scholar is my website. I share with two other fine folk in the US, where we are the movie side by movie fans for movie fans. What else could you ask for? But as usual, enough from me. So I'm going to play you the trailer for Psychotherapy, followed by interview, and then straight into the trailer of Children of the Apocalypse, followed by my wonderful interview with Mr. Isaac Ezban. So, over to me.
I want a divorce.
What?
He's been working on a new book. How long's it been?
4 years. It's been 4 years.
Jane O'Hara, your new book. It's about a serial killer. I'm the person for the job. I'm a retired serial killer. What the How's this gonna work? I'm going to teach you what killers do. So you'll be like a counselor.
Who are you?
Well, I'm a counselor.
I'm sorry, I was not expecting my husband to bring a marriage counselor to our home.
A marriage counselor? Okay, then. You are in a safe zone. Shall we begin?
Mr. Karacelik, how are you, good sir?
Thank you, Glenn. How are you?
I'm really good, sir. How are you doing this April Fool's Day? You been fooled yet?
No, not yet. Only when I was called sir right now from you. No, I don't.
Okay, so let's talk about psychotherapy. exactly that, right? And what's given his full title, The Shallow Tale of a Writer Who Decided to Write About a Serial Killer. So you're the writer and screenwriter of The Shallow Tale of a Writer, etc. Can you tell me what your inspirations were? Because so many peaks and troughs throughout the movie, so many different directions we go in. What was your first inspiration for the film?
This is my fourth film now, fourth feature film, and I had I think six shorts before. I'm always a writer and director, most probably a writer first and a director. And this is the first time, Glenn, that Tom York is a saying, like I think he said in fourth album's release, Tom York said, this is the first time that I realized an artist doesn't need to suffer to create. So this is the first time that while I was writing, I was enjoying so much. I didn't care where it was going, and I just continued making it a little bit pulpish, but funny for myself. So now while I'm writing, I was shouting to my wife, who's like, for example, in the living room, and then you did this, and then you did that while I'm writing at the same time. So I don't know what I intended, but like I started writing this, taking notes about this, I think 7 or 8 something years ago. And it was something else. Then it was just about a serial killer and a writer. A serial killer trying to make this writer to write about himself. Then I got married. Marriage came into the blend. And then there was another script that I was writing also about that Neanderthal man and his Homo sapiens lady, which is true, by the way, that I tried to write that script also, the thing that we had seen in the beginning of the film, which was really unsuccessful attempt. I wanted to make a movie about kind of like a believing in this could continue being a couple or family. So it is like what Don Quixote said, if you believe, it will be reality. If you believe, then it will be reality. So I think it ended up being about how to continue being a couple or family.
And that takes work, of course. Absolutely. Been there myself. And you need Steve Buscemi, of course, to sort your life out for you. You all do that, huh? But I just want to talk about Steve Buscemi. Of course, we have to. Because I watched the trailer on YouTube, and like every comment was pretty much my comment, which was Steve Buscemi, I'm in.
Yeah.
And what I love about Steve Buscemi is he reached that age now where he doesn't age anymore. He could be 45, 55, 65. You go, oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But he just has all that quality. Like my favorite movie is The Big Lebowski. Of course, he plays Donnie in that. And he is just so watchable.
Yeah.
How did you approach him with this movie? Because of course he played a serial killer before in Con Air, which is one of his signature roles. And he is just so watchable. So how did you approach him with the script? And was he your first choice?
Yes. He would show me like what you said, he's ageless because his mind is ageless. He is most probably younger than me in his mind also. And one of the most gentle people that I had worked with, and I'm not like proud to call him a friend now. But like he was the first one to get into this film. Like he was calm. He was the first person who jumped on the boat, and he was a compadre till then. Like he never let it go. He was always next to me, fighting for the movie, and with grace, with delicacy. Like he was always there helping me. Like he always made me feel also the director, but like he was always there also as a friend to fight for the film too. I would never have thought that I would be directing Steve Buscemi, to be honest with you, my first English debut film. But the thing is, I remember the first Zoom that we had, like, I think there was like 15 minutes for it to start. The time didn't pass. So I think mistakenly I brushed my teeth, I don't know why, 2 times in a row or something like that. And when the Zoom started, I just told him, I just had to get it out of my chest. You're a legend. I love you. And now just let's pass this. Like, what do you think about Coleman? And he started to talk to me about my own character that I had written, laughing in this Zoom. And then he was telling, and then he does that. I said, yes, Steve, I know I wrote this. But like, he was so in love with the character Colmick that the joy in his eyes, the sparkle in his eyes was like something that I also love when I'm doing something. It's like feeling like a 5-year-old, like that sparkle in the eyes. He had that. So, and I was so lucky and happy. And not one day, not one moment while working with him proved me wrong, proved me otherwise. It every bit was really unbelievably good working with him.
That's great. Could ask for more. So the reception of the film, right, has been very positive. Just I not checked, they're 8.6 on IMDb, which is fantastic news. Are you thinking to yourself, I'm so glad I did this? And did you put research into it as well? Because it is laugh out loud funny, but there are real moments of depth. And you do feel for the lead character, but also you feel like he is a bit of an idiot sometimes. But of course, that's the balance, and we're all like that. So did you research maybe a bit into serial killing and a bit into marriage counseling? And were they crossed over here and there?
No, not much, but I did search about the medical examiners a lot. I don't know why, but I think I was in Sundance with my last movie, and I think it was over there that I came into this names of some medical examiners over there. I think I was there with Butterflies, my last movie that was in Sundance, and I was, I think, in New York City, and I opened this New York Times crosswords puzzle. We called crosswords puzzle, right? And there was this name of this medical examiner. I should know what's medical examiner. Then I started reading about medical examiners and like autopsy, and like there's some cool guys over there. So I started reading more. I don't know why. My interest is all the things that I'm not interested in. So you can find me reading about something that I got no idea what it is about. I don't know why I started reading about medical examiners and some of them, but like it's got into this movie at the end.
Okay, that's really cool. I just want to talk quickly one more question about Britt Lauer, of course, who's having great success in Severance. Well, it's a fear of my show too. So what was it like in her own boards? And did you ask about Severance, anything like that?
Yes, I did watch Stebbins before, of course, approaching to her. And like working with Brit was also so fun and good. Like she's open-minded. Then John Magaro also, all the actors in this movie are what a director when you're working with these kind of like crafted able actors. It's just like you just try to put the frame on the same place. Like this is the place that we want to go, this is the place, and then just let them do their thing and like enjoy watching every bit of what they're doing, and like then ask, maybe we can do this a little bit, maybe what about this, what about that, and everything that you ask is 10 times back to you. So that's was so nice working with her too.
Oh, that's great. Great news. Well, so I could talk to you all day, but my time is up. And thank you so much for your time. And I really enjoyed the movie. I can't wait to tell everyone about it. Take care, sir. Have a great day.
Thank you, Glenn.
Había una vez dos niños quienes vivían con su padre leñador y su madrastra cerca de un espeso bosque. Hasta acá llegó la pandemia.
Llegó a todo el mundo. Pero eso no fue el problema.
Estuvimos vagando mucho tiempo. Luego encontramos esta casa y todo cambió.
Corre.
¿Crees que el monstruo se comió a mis papás?
¡Ven por él! ¡Corre, corre, corre! ¡Contéstame! ¡Te mordieron!
Caminan por la tierra sonando su trompeta. Cuando el mundo acabe, estás con ellos. ¿O estás de sobra?
Hi, Glenn. Great to meet you. Great poster behind. What a cool place to make an interview. And great chair, too.
A little reference myself. We'll talk about those in a minute as well with your movie, of course. Okay, so Children of the Apocalypse. What a roller coaster. I had such a great time with this movie. It was awesome.
Thank you.
So let's talk about the three boys, of course, first of all. They're the heart and soul of this movie. And if you told me beforehand they were brothers in real life, I would have believed you. No problem. But how do you find Matteo, Leonardo, and Farid?
Yeah, you know what? A professor of mine used to say, when you're making a movie, casting is 50%. I think when you're working with children, casting is 80%, because it's all about nailing the right decisions for the right role. And if you nail them, you have it. There's two kinds of filmmakers: the directors that write something thinking on how they're going to make it happen. You know, like, for example, I have this friend who once said, oh, I wrote the character of a kid. I'm gonna put very little dialogue into this character because he's a child, you know? So I'm not that kind of filmmaker. The other kind of filmmaker is you write whatever the fuck you have in your mind, and then you see how to make it happen. That's what I did, you know? And the moment when I delivered the script to myself or to my crew, I was like, wait, how are we gonna find these kids? The kids that can carry the whole weight of the movie. I mean, somebody told me, man, you made a 2-hour movie carried by 3 kids because, you know, the parents and the girl, but you see them little. So it was all about the casting process. I worked with Rocio Belmont, who this is my 3rd movie with her. She's a great casting director. And we opened up a casting process for like 8 months. We saw a lot of kids. You know, Mateo, the youngest, was actually the easiest to find because the moment I saw him, I was like, that's him. There is he. Then Oliver, the middle brother, was a little harder. But I would say the hardest was Salvador, the oldest kids, because originally I had envisioned somebody younger, somebody in the age like 11, 12, somebody who wouldn't look. Now you see the movie and you see like 1 teenager and 2 boys. I didn't want that. My original idea was 3 boys and that the oldest one would be like 11, 12. So when he's in that scene with the girl, in the bed scene, it would actually seem like he's a little kid with an older woman. But it was really hard because, you know, that role, he's yelling a lot. He's almost like a military general. And the kids that were 11, 12, it looked fake. The performance, it looked like they were playing. So the casting director told me, Isaac, let's go and let's age him up. And we started looking at kids that were 16, 17. We found Felix, who I think does an amazing job, but had to kind of compromise and let go of that idea I had of like a young kid with an older girl. She's still much older than him. You know, he's 17 and she's 25. Somebody told me that you can see the age in the eyes of a person, but still, because he's very tall, it almost looks like there's 2 people in the same age hooking up. But I had to let go of that idea, which still works between them. There's a great chemistry. She still looks more mature, but had to let go of that idea in my mind of a kid and an older woman in order to, for the rest of the movie, have an actor that is better for the role. And that was a little bit of the casting process.
Yeah, sort of pull off big style. I mean, they're so believable. They're so sweet together, and they have that brotherly bond where they don't want to be the older brother, but in the moments of peril, they do look to him, and he steps up so many times. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And they're just a joy to watch, and they don't annoy you. I'm sure as the audience, I hope he gets eaten. But you say, oh, they're going through so much, and they're such a little team and so much bonding. Yeah, it's really, really great. So tip the cap for the casting over there. And while we're at it, let's talk about the parents. We don't want to give too much away, of course, but Horatio and Norma. I just love, I made a note going lots of teeth acting. With their
What? A lot of teeth acting?
teeth acting. Yeah, yo, definitely. So how did you approach that? How did you direct them in those moments? Did you have them watch any movies, or did you say emphasize this? How did you direct the mother and father?
Well, you know, it's those roles are very, very physical. So I needed actors that would really deliver a very physical performance, right? So I looked them up almost with that in mind. You know, thinking of actors that will deliver that performance, that could be very physical actors. And, you know, sometimes you look at actors in terms of how is their performance, how is their technique, dialogue, and sometimes you just look like a physical type. And in this case, I need to look for both. I needed actors that were very, very skinny, very, very thin. So that you could tell, because I didn't want to make like fake zombies, or somebody at some point even suggested like CGI beasts. I was like, no way. I want them to look human. So actually we did a lot of research on real human conditions like anorexia, like people with eating disorders, like people losing hair for cancer. Like we did a lot of research on that. So we needed actors that would be very thin, that would be very expressive in their eyes, that would have a lot of control in their movements. We needed a woman with very short hair, so she wouldn't have a problem, going all bald. So we don't have to put a bald on her. So it was a lot of boxes they had to click. We were lucky that Horacio and Norma really clicked those boxes. Norma is actually a model, and she is a teacher in movement for actors in Casa Azul, which is one of the biggest acting schools in Mexico City. And that's what she has. She has all this really control of her body. And I discovered that from day one. And then Horacio, I chose him more because of his facial expression And he didn't have so much control over his body, but that worked out great because they were not the same creatures. I feel Horacio is more like a classic Romero zombie, and Norma is more like a creature, like a reptile creature. And men and women are different in the real world, so it only makes sense that when they become creatures, they can also be different. So I like the contrast between them. Instead of trying to force one into being what he's not, I just used both of their, I guess, skills or conditions or characteristics to make the characters different. And it was great working with them. A very physical performance. They had to be in makeup almost 4 hours every day they came. So in the house, it was very easy because we would just call them at 7, 8. We would start with the kids and then they would be ready by noon. But the tough thing was when we did the basement was a separate location and it was only them for 5 days. So that week, they had to be the first ones to arrive, the last to leave. Makeup took 4 hours to put in and 4 hours out. So that week was insane for them and they really delivered.
It really did. They were both scary and empathetic, which is what you want from a zombie. You do want to see their pain and you want to see the tragedy and everything like that. Let's talk about the references. So, again, did you have fun with playing with the zombie lore, you and your co-writer? And I noticed maybe some little references maybe to The Fly as well, one where the character takes the weapon.
The gun.
Yeah. Yeah, and we have maybe, well, a few days later, of course, like you said, Romero zombies. Did you have fun with the lore and introducing new areas of zombie lore?
Well, if you look at my letterbox, you'll see The Fly is one of my 4 favorite movies of all times. And yeah, of course, a lot of zombie movies as references. You know, some of my favorites are, of course, Wreck, 28 Days Later, The Girl with All the Gifts. I would say a big reference was Romero's Day of the Dead, because that's a movie where it's very bleak and where it does one of the few movies where you actually see how they're training a zombie, you know, trying to teach things to a zombie. The Day of the Dead is totally like that. You know, it's a movie about teaching things to a zombie, right? So those were some of the references, but I also always like picking up on something that already exists and twisting it a little bit, right? So that's something I did with this movie. I picked up on the zombie tradition, but you know, there's been a million zombie movies. They're all about the same thing, as zombies invading the streets and invading houses at the end of the world. And I decided that's not so interesting. What's interesting for me is to make a movie about a different family, a family that works upside down, a movie that is more intimate, more contained, more. Somebody said it was like a Stephen King meets Romero, and that's exactly. I wanted to give that touch of the coming of age, a coming of age aspect of it, and also I always like using the genre as a metaphor. In this case, it's a metaphor about the universal truth of how parents take care of children, and then it's the other way around. So I wanted to make a story about how, from a very young age, kids have to take care of their parents, right? And at the same time, it's a story about trying to save a family, trying to keep a family united no matter what, which is something I can personally relate to. So that's how I try to differentiate from other zombie movies. And yeah, references included from those zombie movies I mentioned, even to great coming of age movies that I love, like Pan's Labyrinth and The Devil's Backbone, which for me are the true masterpieces by Del Toro, or even other movies with children in the leading roles, like I would say, like Don't Be Afraid of the Dark, like the others. But I would say the one movie that was the genesis of the idea was Goodnight Mommy. When I saw Goodnight Mommy, it blew my mind, and I wanted to make something in that vein.
Wow. Yeah, look, I love seeing the little references in there, and obviously you're very passionate about those too. I like to say about your family. So you've dedicated the movie to your 2 brothers. Was there any areas you drew from real life? Because obviously, if your brothers and yourself, was there any moments you put real life into the 3 characters?
Well, you know, I actually...
Were you eating worms together and things like that?
I deeply considered dedicating it to them because I didn't want people to assume that, you know, my parents were zombies or so. I actually come from a very tight, united family. My parents are great and they've been a great support for me. So none of that is from real life. But yeah, the family dynamic. I'm the oldest of 3 brothers. I wouldn't say I put a lot of my brothers into these characters, but because it's a story about 3 brothers, I wanted to dedicate the movie to them. And the one thing I would say is I was always growing up the less physical of my brothers. I was always more strategic, but I never played football. I never did any sports. And my brother, the one in the middle was, you know, karate, soccer, football, all that. So in my original version of the script, the older brother was in a wheelchair. and the two younger brothers were carrying him around. And maybe that was my way of saying, yeah, I was always the less physical of my brothers. And that's the only thing. Out of that, I don't think there's a lot of my life in this other than three brothers, like me and my brothers.
That's perfect homage to your relationship. Wonderful. Well, sir, it's been a real pleasure. And like I say, I really, really enjoyed the movie. I loved how it brought something new to the genre and also honored it as well. So a perfect zombie movie. Okay, sir. Have a great day.
Thank you so much, Glenn. And hopefully you can recommend it to our listeners. It comes out this Friday, April 4th. We're excited to see how it plays out. Thank you.
Exactly. Have a good one, sir. Bye-bye. Good luck. And there we have another episode of Are You Not Qatartainment, the movie podcast. This time the interviews, psychos, and zombies. I really hope you enjoyed that, folks. I really, really do, as much as I did. Again, please leave a comment, please leave a like or follow, subscribe, ring the bell. You know what to do on social media more than I do. But all your support really, really counts and really matters. And please leave a comment as feedback. Tell me what I'm doing right. Tell me what I'm doing wrong. It is all useful. I won't be offended. But please, again, please support these two movies. They're well worth your time if you can check them out and follow their filmmakers on social media as well. That's it from me. I hope you've been Qatartainment. I will see you next time. I've been your host, Glenn Dar, and I'll see you at the movies.
Are you not entertained?